Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.I.I.S.A.S here, back with the fourth and final part of my dreams for supporting South Africa, I suppose you could call it, or P.O.C for South Africa, people of colour supporting South Africa, people of colour such as myself. It's midnight here in the UK, so I'm a bit behind schedule. I really wanted to finish this off before midnight, but I was also conscious of uploading so many videos so quickly, but I hope people out there enjoy it, especially those who have an interest in South Africa or in this network I wish to create. Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and South Africa all coming together. Please share the video with anyone who's interested in South Africa, whether they're from South Africa itself, themselves, or whether they just have an interest in South Africa. Also, please post any information about South Africa, preferably positive, if you'd be so kind. And anyone who's a nice, kind, caring, considerate, and sharing person, I hope you'll share this video with them and they'll support it. If I ever got my channel monetized, videos like this, which I talk about, where I talk about South Africa, if I had enough money, I would donate whatever money I made from such to South Africa itself. So I think it's worth people in South Africa checking it out and supporting these videos. Anyway, with that being said, here are a list of some further ideas. So number 31, I would love for I think it'd be interesting if people from Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, M.I.I.S.A.S, as I call it, if as many of them as possible subscribe to and support and liked each other's channels and videos, and possibly mine as well, that'd be great. Number 32, I think it'd be cool if the M.I.I.S.A.S, as I call it, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, as I say, if all those nations came together and worked together and shared ideas and learned from each other, and also helped encourage their citizens to learn about STEM, science, tech, engineering, and maths, and also AI, which I think is a key area nowadays. Anyone who learns about AI, I think there's two key areas I was thinking about. I can't remember if there was actually another one, but AI, artificial intelligence, is a really key area. Someone asked Bill Gates in an interview, it wasn't really an interview, it was some sort of event. I don't know what it's called, but he asked them rather brazenly, like, when I replace you as the richest person in the world, what industry would it be in? This was a while back, of course, but he said, I think if you learn about artificial intelligence, that would be, he goes, I wasn't quite as confident as this young guy, but if you learn about artificial intelligence and something in that area, so that would probably be the new version of Microsoft, or new version of software. I think it would be cool, though, if South Africans and Africans generally work together on software. That's one area I'd love for Africans to unite on. Tech generally, but if they made like a programming language, I came up with an idea called M.O.P, M.O.P, which could be a team which works on Africans, as many Africans as possible, especially, and also possibly working with Indigenous Australians, and possibly the Black diaspora around the world could create like a programming language. I sometimes call it micro operating programmer or micro operating processor, alternatively. But sometimes I call it the micro operating programmer, and sometimes I call it the micro operating processor. So it would be all possible Indigenous Africans and possibly Indigenous Australians and even Black people around the world generally working together on creating a programming language, maybe even people of colour generally as well, working together to make a programming language, which I hope will benefit all possible people across Africa by helping them to communicate with each other and trade. And it will be also a software program, which I hope, or a programming language or processor or whatever, which would be like, basically it would be something that could work on antivirus protection and also possibly even preventing cyber threats and things like that before they even happen. So I hope that African countries such as South Africa, of course, could market that to the rest of the world and sort of sell it to the rest of the world and sell it all around the world. And hopefully that'll benefit all possible Africans generally. If as many Africans as possible, the approximately 1 billion people, work together on that programming language. Again, I hope that will benefit nations such as South Africa and the rest of Africa, of course, or all possible 54 or 55 countries in Africa, in and across Africa. Number 33, again, I think working on areas like STEM, AI, artificial intelligence, and things like that are really important. I'd love to know what you think are the key areas which you think that people from South Africa and the rest of what I call the M.I.I.S.A.S should work on. If you're from one of those nations, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and of course Singapore, or if you've been to those nations, or if you're from one of those nations but you've also been to other members of those nations, I'd love to know what you think, especially, but also, as I often say, all comments welcome, especially if they're on topic. And just like the BRICS, I think they should teach their citizens about, obviously South Africa is part of that as well. I think they should teach, and India is as well. I think they should teach their citizens about software development, and STEM generally, and also artificial intelligence, and that kind of thing, and all sorts of areas to empower them and each other, so they can work together on coding, programming languages, building apps. I think that was the other thing I was thinking about, artificial intelligence and apps and things like that. So again, I'd love to read any suggestions you have about how South Africa, in this case, let's say specifically, could work on building apps, or how they could work with other nations like Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and Singapore, or the BRICS, or whoever else, to build apps. Number 34, hopefully, as I say, South Africa, I would love to be, obviously they're already part of the BRICS. I was going to say I'd love for them to be a part of the BRICS, but they already are. I hope they'll benefit as much as possible from networks like that. And also, as I say, I hope they'll be part of the M.I.I.S.A.S. And as I said before, I know it's got the word SAS in, or the term SAS, in this case, standing for South Africa and Singapore. But I would love for people of colour, as I say, I know I do repeat myself a lot, but I would love for people of colour to support countries like South Africa, instead of supporting like things that support imperialism, such as, say, for instance, Western militaries or things like that. I mean, instead of I suppose one key area people could say is that you learn training in the military, like it pushes you to have discipline, and you learn training which can toughen you up physically and mentally, which means you can protect yourself if you're being attacked, for instance. You could stand up for yourself maybe and be more assertive. But if we as P.O.C, people of colour, could learn those sorts of things, maybe martial arts or things like that, or things that you would learn in the military, if we could learn those things without joining the military or fighting, so we're not fighting each other, I think that would be pretty cool. Number 35, so basically I think it'd be cool if P.O.C united together generally, and one of the things we could unite behind is supporting nations like South Africa with their goals and things like that. Number 36, I hope, as I say, that Serie A, Italy's top league, and Italian football generally, and also for all teams around the world, soccer for any Americans out there, as I often say, even the MLS on that note, and La Liga, Spain's top league, I think it's called the Primavera, Portugal's top league, Ligue 1 in France, the EPL, English Premier League, the SPL, and all other leagues around the world, possibly trying to fundraise for South Africa and host fundraising events. Maybe football YouTubers could host such events as well. But I especially hope it will benefit the relationship between Italian football and Celtic, and South Africa, sorry, number 37, and Celtic and South Africa as well. I think a point I forgot to make, given my memory and stuff like that, I have memory problems. I think it's because as dyslexics think so much of so many different ideas, as you can probably tell. I know I do repeat myself a lot though, but of what I call a tripartite relationship, as in three parts. So Italy, India, and South Africa in this case. So in Italy, I hope would benefit through football, South Africa through like technology and things like that, or even their economy generally, and India with their economy generally. India could perhaps teach South Africans about IIT, the Indian Institute of Tech, and how South Africa can have its own version, the SAIT, South African Institute of Tech, and just train South Africans in STEM generally, and tutor them and mentor them and things like that, and pass on any skills and knowledge in return for trade deals. I hope this will benefit India's economy generally and help their businesses to sell more to South Africans. And yeah, so I said it's to benefit football. Yeah, I already got that one out of the way. But yeah, I hope it will benefit all three nations, and maybe even that could be extended to African nations and Asian nations generally. Number 38, I'd love to hear from people of colour any reasons why you perhaps wouldn't want to support South Africa, or any reasons why you would, and possibly have a nice, hopefully friendly debate in the comment section about hopefully keeping it amicable, please. But I always welcome all comments, but hopefully talking about why, reasons for or reasons against supporting South Africa. To be honest, I can't really think of many reasons against such, although I do know there are problems in South Africa with, let's say, crime and things like that, criminality and whatnot. But I must admit, I can think of so many reasons to support South Africa. Obviously, that's what these videos are about. Number 39. On that note, I'd love for people to share their own reasons for supporting South Africa, as I say, and what they love about South Africa and things like that, including those who live in the country. And again, any ideas people have that they could add to it. And number 40, perhaps also, as I wanted to make in the past, I would love for South Africa to also be like a beneficiary or a benefactor, a benefitter. It's a word I made up, perhaps, but probably the best word is beneficiary for this. But I would love for South Africa to benefit from like a network of former Dutch colonies, so countries that were colonized by the Dutch, like South Africa and Indonesia, and nations like that were colonized by the Dutch, so they can network together, and they have that in common, obviously. Maybe even also former colonies generally working together. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and I am out. Peace and love.